Hi boys and girls, welcome to a brand new day of Number Corner for the month of November. Today's objectives are I can tell and write time to the nearest 5 minutes on an analog and digital clock. I can fluently add and subtract using mental strategies, and I can skip count by tens and hundreds. So let's start by taking a look at our calendar grid and catching up on our markers for Saturday and Sunday before we move on to Monday, which is today. If we take a look at Saturday, we can see that that marker holds an analog wristwatch, and we know that it's an analog clock because we have two hands, the short hand that points to the hour and the long hand that points to the minutes. So let's go ahead and add that to our calendar grid observation chart. So we have November 7th, and we have an analog wristwatch because this is a watch that we wear on our wrists. And from here I can see that the small hand is pointing to the 3 and the long hand is pointing to the 12, indicating that it is a brand new hour. So we would write 3:00, which is 3 o'clock. Last time on Friday that we looked at this, we left off at 2:30. And if we look at our pattern, we kept adding 30 minutes every day. So by taking a look at 2:30 to 3 p.m., we know that we have added 30 minutes once again, or we can say this as half hour. We added half an hour. Now let's take a look at Sunday. On Sunday, we had another wristwatch, but this time it looks like a digital wristwatch. So we're going to go ahead and add that to our calendar grid observation chart for November 8th. We have a digital wristwatch. And the digital wristwatch tells us that it is 3:30, which is once again adding 30 minutes or half an hour. Now let's take a look at today's calendar marker. I can see that this is another analog clock, and it's not a wristwatch this time, it is just a normal clock. So for November 9th, we can either write November 9th by using numbers. We could also write this by saying November 9th, 2020, or we can abbreviate November just like we have learned and just write the numbers for the day and the year. Again, this is an analog clock. And now I'm going to take a look at my small hand, which points to the hour, and I can see that it is between the 7 and the 8. Since it isn't at the 8 yet, that tells me that it is still 7. And if I look at my minute hand, I can see that it is at the 6. Now we have learned that when it is at the 6, that means that we have done 30 minutes. So this is 7:30. What do you notice about this time and the patterns that we have been looking at for the amount of past time? Yes, every day we've gradually been adding time. We have 12, we have 1, 2, 3, and now we've gone all the way up to 7, which means that we have added how much time? Right, we have added 4 hours this time, which has officially changed our pattern. All right, now we are going to move into the rows and columns game. And before we play this game, it is important to know that rows go from left to right, as you can see in this picture, kind of like in a movie theater when you sit in rows. And columns go up and down, kind of like a building. They go up and down. So for the rows and columns game, we're each going to draw 2 cards from the deck. The first card will tell us how many rows we're going to have, and the second card will tell us how many columns we will have, just like in this picture. So I will go ahead and go first, and we are going to play teacher versus student. So here are the 2 cards that I picked from the deck. We have 4 and 2, which means that I'm going to have 4 rows and 3 columns. So let's go ahead and demonstrate this on our Tile app. All right, again, I have 4 rows and 2 columns. And I'm just going to write that down so that I don't forget. All right, so I'm going to take my tiles and I'm going to take 4 first to demonstrate my rows. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. And I want to have 2 columns, so each row will have 2 tiles. So now here I have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows and 1, 2 columns. So now I want to demonstrate the total of this array by writing 2 equations. So for my first equation, I can actually write it as 2 groups of 4. So I can do 4 plus 4 equals 8. Or I can also write it by demonstrating 4 groups of 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4 twos, 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 equals 8 as well. So far, my total is 8 for my array. Your turn. All right, it looks like you have picked cards 5 and 3, which means that you are going to have 5 rows and 3 columns. So let's go ahead and show that on our tile board. All right, so again, you have 5 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in each row, you have 3 columns. So I have 1, 2, 3, because this first one counts as 1. So we're going to fill that in so that there are 3 columns going up and down. All right, so now you have you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows and 1, 2, 3 columns. All right, so now we have to come up with an equation. And again, we can go by the rows and say that we have 3 groups of 5. So we could do 5 plus 5 plus 5 equals 15. What's another equation you could use to represent your array? Good, if you said 5 groups of 3, you are correct. So we would do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups of 3 to also get 15. All right, so let's take a look at our totals to see who won the first round. Teacher got 8, student got 15, which means that you are now in the lead. So we will go ahead and give you a point. Let's go ahead and play 2 more rounds here. And let's make sure we give you your points. So student has 1. All right, so I'm going to pick 2 more cards. And here I have 4 and 1, which means I have 4 rows and 1 column. So I'm going to pick 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. But I only have I have 4 rows, but I only have 1 column, which means that I'm not going to add any more tiles because I already have that 1 column right here. So to demonstrate this, what equation could I write? I could say 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 4. I could also just say 4 plus 0, because I only have 1 column, equals 4. All right, so my total for this array is 4. Your turn. You picked out cards 1 and 3, so you have 1 row and 3 columns. All right, so if you have 1 row, how many tiles are you going to add first? Good, you're just going to go ahead and add 1 tile for 1 row, and you have 3 columns, so you're going to add 2 more. 1 and 2. All right, so now that you have 1 row and 1, 2, 3 columns, what equation could you use to represent your array? Excellent. You could do 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 3, or 3 plus 0 equals 3. So for this round, it looks like my total was greater. 4 is greater than 3, so I would get the point. All right, last round. So far, teacher has 1 point and you have 1 point. So we are tied. All right. This time around, I pulled out a 3 and a 4, so I have 3 rows and 4 columns. All right, so let's go ahead and show that. So I have 3 rows, so that means that I'm going to pick 3 tiles. 1, 2, 3. And if I want 4 columns, that's how many tiles will be in each row. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to fill those all out. So now to double check, I have 3 rows, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. So I can demonstrate this by writing 4 groups of 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals 4. Or I can do 3 groups of 4. 4 plus 4 plus 4 equals 12. And I should fix this total over here to also equal 12. So my total for my array is 12. All right, your final turn. Looks like you picked 4 and 4, so you will have 4 columns and 4 rows. All right, so let's pick out your tiles. You're going to have 4 rows with 4 columns. All right, so as I fill in the tiles, I want you to start thinking of an equation to represent your array for this turn. What equation would you use? Great! You could do 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4. Since you have 4 groups of 4, I know that 4 plus 4 is 8. 4 plus 4 is also 8. And when you combine the 8 and the 8 for a doubles fact, that equals 16. Awesome. So you have a greater total on this round because you have 16, which is greater than 12, which gives you a point, and you are the winner of our first rows and columns game. Great job. All right, now the final thing for Number Corner today is updating our number line. On Friday, we left off at 480. If we look at that tens place, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The hundreds place didn't change, and the ones place didn't change. Which means that today, if we add 10, we are now at 490. All right, now that we have finished with the number line, after you are done watching this video, you may either go work on Dreambox or take a quick break, but just make sure to return to your classroom at 2:35. Have a great day, everybody.